In the mid-15th century, a time when the divine right of kings and the superstition of the common folk coexisted in fragile harmony, Europe was a quilt of fractured kingdoms, each vying for power through war, trade, and the sacred tool of alliance, marriage. Among the bloodied maps and disputed borders stood two noble houses locked in centuries of rivalry, House von Draantal and House Hiliganmark. Their enmity stretched back generations, layered with betrayal, land disputes, river toll wars, and a notorious incident during the War of the Crimson Feathers, which left hundreds dead and trust irreparably damaged. Elizabetha von Draantal, the only daughter of Duke Caspar II, was renowned across the Central Realms for her grace, intellect, and lineage. Her engagement to Prince Alaric of Hiliganmark, the second-born but favored son of King Wilhelm IV, shocked even the most seasoned diplomats. The announcement was met with both astonishment and cautious optimism. Rome blessed the union, seeing it as a divine opportunity to bring peace to a region plagued by conflict, especially with the Ottoman Empire growing in strength. Castle Ambress, nestled deep in the emerald-cloaked folds of Tyrol, was chosen as the site for the wedding. The castle itself was an ancient fortress turned palace, known for its towering spires and stained glass windows depicting tales of conquest and martyrdom. In preparation for the royal event, artisans, cooks, and entertainers from across Europe descended upon Ambress. The days leading to the wedding were filled with pageantry. The air smelled of roses imported from Provence, frankincense, and roasted game. Bards sang of a new golden era. On the day of the wedding, over 600 guests, dukes, counts, bishops, knights, and emissaries from as far as Persia, gathered within the candlelit grandeur of Ambress Great Hall. Elizabetha, wearing a silver-threaded gown woven over 2 years, walked beneath arches of lilies to meet Prince Alaric. The ceremony, presided over by high clergy, was heartfelt and seemingly sincere. Alaric wept during his vows, and Duke Caspar, though known for his iron temperament, held his daughter's hand tightly as if offering her into destiny's grip. Following the sacred rites, the castle transformed into a theater of indulgence. Swans stuffed with figs, roasted boar glazed with honey, whole fish adorned with garnets and citrus. Every dish was a statement of wealth and political power. Servants dressed as mythical creatures danced around the tables. Wine flowed endlessly. The wedding feast spanned 3 halls and 2 courtyards. And then something shifted. At first, it was easy to dismiss. The tinge of unease, the faint sweating, the general discomfort that often follows indulgent banquets. A minor Saxon prince convulsed suddenly, collapsing face first into his bowl. A Lombardian lady clutched her throat and dropped to her knees, blood streaming from her nose. Screams followed. Panic rose as nobles clutched their stomachs, their faces contorting in agony. Physicians rushed in with tonics, herbs, and whispered prayers, but nothing helped. Within minutes, over 100 guests had fallen. The great hall, which had echoed with laughter hours before, became a chamber of moans, retching, and death. The smell of perfume gave way to bile and blood. Elizabetha reportedly collapsed into Alaric's arms, whispering words no one could fully hear. He tried to summon help but soon doubled over himself. They died together, entwined, surrounded by shattered goblets. By morning, the castle floor was strewn with the bodies of over 412 guests. Survivors were few and deeply traumatized. Some vanished from public life. Others took lifelong pilgrimages. No survivor ever attended another wedding. The morning after the massacre, the valley below Castle Ambress was choked with silence. Bells tolled not for celebration, but mourning. The clergy called it divine punishment. Physicians theorized it to be a sudden plague. Yet neither explanation could satisfy the growing sense of something darker, a planned act of carnage. King Wilhelm IV, stricken by the loss of his son, declared a full royal inquisition. Interrogations spread across the kingdom. Dozens of servants were tortured. Some confessed to witchcraft. Others spoke of strange barrels that arrived days before the wedding, unmarked and not part of the royal stock. A cook had vanished the night before the feast. Rumors grew like rot. Of masked men in the wine cellars, of a visiting merchant who spoke an unplaceable language, of shadowy figures seen entering the chapel after midnight. And then came the letter. It was discovered in the private quarters of Lord Matthias von Draantal, Elizabetha's cousin, known for his radical views against the Union. The letter, encoded in a cipher used by Templar remnants, outlined a ritual, a last supper of purification, involving consecrated agents and false unities. It spoke of cleansing the noble bloodline through divine fire masked as wine. The implications were staggering. The wedding had been turned into a ritualistic massacre. Theories surged. Some believed Matthias belonged to a secret cult devoted to ancient gods of death and renewal. Others saw it as a political assassination on a grand scale, a bid to wipe out rival noble lines in one night. The symbol of a serpent coiled around a dagger was reportedly seen etched into the base of some wine goblets, a mark tied to pre-Christian fertility and death rites. Matthias had vanished. His guards were either dead or had fled. His room had been ransacked. Horses were missing from the stables. The king's men pursued him, but no trail lasted more than a few miles. The search turned to the forests, and then to monasteries. None yielded answers. In the weeks that followed, entire noble families were accused of complicity. Some vanished. Others were burned in the town squares. Castle Ambress was cleansed with holy fire and sealed for 3 years. The land itself was said to scream at night. Part 3 of 4. The Cult and the Kingdom. As the royal houses mourned and buried their dead, a new theory gained ground. The massacre had been orchestrated by a secret society embedded in the noble bloodlines. According to a second letter, anonymously delivered to the court of Bohemia, this order, called the Circle of Thorns, believed in maintaining blood purity through ritual sacrifice. They worshipped an ancient deity whose name was erased from Christian texts. The Ambress wedding was the perfect opportunity. Powerful bloodlines, sacred union, public attention, and a gathering of enemies. The letter detailed how agents had infiltrated the kitchens, replaced barrels, and drugged meats and wines with alchemical compounds. The goal wasn't just death, it was purification, transcendence through agony. The clergy denied such claims. The Pope issued a letter declaring the event God's punishment for hubris. But the nobility grew restless. Fear spread through Europe's courts. Marriages were cancelled. Weddings were scaled back. Political unions dissolved. King Wilhelm IV, despite his grief, had lost legitimacy. With no surviving heir, Hiliganmark's throne grew contested. Civil war brewed. Opportunists carved away pieces of the kingdom. Meanwhile, House von Draantal, blamed for the incident by some, collapsed. Duke Caspar II died months later, a broken man. His lands were seized by neighbors. Castle Ambress became a cursed name. No one spoke it aloud. Peasants refused to pass near it. The chapel supposedly bloomed with roses every winter solstice, despite no garden. Whispers claimed the voices of the dead echoed through the halls. As the royal houses mourned and buried their dead, a new theory gained ground. The massacre had been orchestrated by a secret society embedded in the noble bloodlines. According to a second letter, anonymously delivered to the court of Bohemia, this order, called the Circle of Thorns, believed in maintaining blood purity through ritual sacrifice. They worshipped an ancient deity whose name was erased from Christian texts. The Ambress wedding was the perfect opportunity. Powerful bloodlines, sacred union, public attention, and a gathering of enemies. The letter detailed how agents had infiltrated the kitchens, replaced barrels, and drugged meats and wines with alchemical compounds. The goal wasn't just death, it was purification, transcendence through agony. The clergy denied such claims. The Pope issued a letter declaring the event God's punishment for hubris. But the nobility grew restless. Fear spread through Europe's courts. Marriages were cancelled. Weddings were scaled back. Political unions dissolved. King Wilhelm IV, despite his grief, had lost legitimacy. With no surviving heir, Hiliganmark's throne grew contested. Civil war brewed. Opportunists carved away pieces of the kingdom. Meanwhile, House von Draantal, blamed for the incident by some, collapsed. Duke Caspar II died months later, a broken man. His lands were seized by neighbors. Castle Ambress became a cursed name. No one spoke it aloud. Peasants refused to pass near it. The chapel supposedly bloomed with roses every winter solstice, despite no garden. Whispers claimed the voices of the dead echoed through the halls. Centuries passed. The massacre faded into legend. Children in the Tyrol region were warned that if they misbehaved, Lady Elizabetha would visit them at night, weeping blood. Occult scholars cited the massacre as proof of ancient rites hidden in European aristocracy. But deeper implications lingered. The massacre shifted how royal marriages were viewed. No longer were they simply political tools. They were threats, traps. The idea of sacrificial unions, where one or both parties were offered for the greater good, took root in whispered halls. Historians debated the true cause. Some said it was bad wine. Others blamed sects. Some believed the truth was buried intentionally by the church and monarchies, afraid of what it might mean for their divine image. The symbol of the serpent and dagger reappeared in scattered places over centuries, in secret texts, family crests, even carved into a cathedral wall in Vienna. Each time, it was linked to tragedy. Castle Ambress still stands, a moss-covered ruin. No royal wedding has ever been held there again. And on some nights, it's said candles flicker inside the great hall, though no soul lives within. The massacre remains one of the darkest, most chilling events in all of Europe's history, a reminder that the greatest danger to a crown doesn't always come from rebellion or sword, but sometimes, from the chalice raised in celebration. The Ambress wedding massacre is remembered not just as a moment of death, but as a turning point in the psychology of power. It revealed that beneath the splendor of monarchy often lies something far more monstrous, an appetite for control, masked in gold, veiled in sacred vows, and sealed in blood. You've just witnessed one of the darkest punishments in history. But many more still lurk in the shadows. So if you dare, subscribe to Torture Vault, where every scream from the past still echoes.